Welcome to the I Am the Worst Parent Ever podcast with Nicole Merritt and Dr. Robert Zeitlin.
Hey, Robert.
Hey, Nicole. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing really well.
I had a question for you.
Okay, shoot.
In my house, I'm not the fun one. It's very clear. You could ask any of my children or my husband. He is the fun one. Is that true for you in your household?
I think it's true in a lot of households that the dads get to be the fun one. I don't know if I'd say I'm the fun one, but I think my wife would say that she has to be the serious one sometimes. And she wishes I would step in and be more, take that responsibility on sometimes. How is your husband the fun one? What does that mean?
I don't know. He has an easier time losing himself in play with the kids. Like, he is so good at that. Like, I'll catch glimpses of it, and I feel like I suck at playing. Like, I'm not a good player. Like,
did you fail kindergarten?
Right? You would think. I'm better when I'm out of the home, and I've said that to you before. Like, this afternoon we're going to go to a free library event. I'm more engaged when I'm not, like, in my own home and seeing everything staring me in the face. But if the kids are at home and they're like, hey, come play with me in my room, I'm like, okay, we go in your room. But then I can't play with the dinosaurs because there's that pile of clothes I should have put away. But my husband is so good at that. He can just, tune out everything else and all distractions and be fully present. And he gets...
I'm not sure my wife would call that a strength, but that's something I can definitely do. She's like, you didn't see that pile?
Right.
I was playing with the dinosaurs,
That is a good excuse. I was playing with the kids. Yeah. No, but I struggle. I want to be more fun, but I guess being more fun requires being more present, which requires me letting go of all of the things I should be doing.
Yeah, I think we've talked before about the emotional load, quote unquote, all the shoulds, the list of things that you're responsible for. I don't know if there's research around this, but there probably is, and there should be, that the amount of, there was an article, I'll have to post it, but the amount of ways that your time is chopped up. I know your time, but also for a lot of moms and a lot of working moms, it's chopped up into such small pieces that it's hard to link any two together to actually get a moment, a moment to think, not to mention a moment to be fun, creative, to reach some kind of flow state. And it feels like I do that better than my wife does, because I can put a couple things aside and link a couple time blocks together. I don't know.
Right. And it could be a mom thing. It could just be a personality thing. I even had a hard time when I was working, in foster care. Even when I worked for an attorney for a little while, compartmentalizing, leaving work and home being home, and not stressing, if my child was sick and I had to stay home, then I was feeling so guilty that I wasn't at work. And when I was at work, I was feeling guilty that I left a sick child. And my husband seems to find it easier to compartmentalize. And when he's home, and when he's working. I struggle with that. And then I know that some people even will time block their fun with their kids, right? But then can you reach that fun flow state that you talk about when it's scheduled? I don't know.
Well, it's hard to do it on demand, right? But also it's hard to do it when you have a million things floating around in your head. But I'm also thinking a story you shared with me, something your dad would be on the sideline, yelling at you to focus. And I think that guys are trained to do this from early on. I remember my first job, and I was so dedicated, and I was working and just focused and trying to finish something. And the men that I was working with, because there's an office full of men for the most part, said, we're going to lunch and you're coming too. I'm like, no, I just need to finish this. I really was into what I was doing. They're like, you have to take a break. You need to walk out of the office and take a break and come back. And I think that's a lesson handed down from men to me specifically, that taught me you need to leave something. You can only really have chunks of time if you actually have a start time and an end time. So take a break, come back to it, it'll be there. But I think also men have the luxury of having uninterrupted time to some degree in a lot of jobs, and definitely a lot of home situations that women don't get.
Right. And I mean, I guess it depends on your work situation, and how you're making everything fit in. But yes, it seems hard. You want me to time block more with the little time I have, like that just seems like there's another task for me to plan on. I'm going to spend my time. Well, that's going to take time. But no,
throw another log on the fire.
Right. No, but it's totally important. And I hear what you're saying. I think many of us, whether you're a parent or not, but sometimes when you're a parent, you struggle. I have this all or nothing mentality. It's like I'm either giving everything my all or I'm giving it nothing, where it's no, like especially in parenthood, you're always on, and you're not always going to be 200% on. So even though 200% is your normal and that's your comfort zone, you have to get comfortable with, giving 30 when 70 is needed elsewhere, or you know what I mean? You gotta resign yourself to the fact that it's not always going to be full on, 200%.
And when most of your day is spent with 3 kids under 7, like they're not waiting. So like your attention is necessarily being pulled in multiple directions, and you can tell them to wait and you can occupy them, or, actually this teacher came up with this great idea that I share with parents. And I think it's brilliant. I don't know if I talked about it in a different conversation, but like a kindergarten teacher, when kids would come up to her and be like, Mrs. Smith, and pulling on her sleeve, she trained them to put their hand on her hand, and she would put her hand on top of their hand while she was still talking to the kids she was talking to and working with them. And that way they knew she was with them, and they knew they were up next, but they also got to see the fact that she'd give the kids she was with undivided attention. Right. And that was enough reinforcement for them to wait a little bit longer, because they knew that they were going to get that kind of attention next. Of course, it depends on the age of your kids. It's one thing to have a room full of 5-year-olds or 6-year-olds. It's another thing to have, 2 to 7 and like try to like figure out who can be patient with what. But I thought it was an interesting way of like saying, I really want to block this time out for you. Yeah. And so in order for me to do that, when it's not you, I need you to figure out a way to like handle that, or I'm going to help you handle that so that I can be that person for you too.
Right. No, it definitely makes sense. And you made me think of just how in families, yes, it's what we can use with our children, but even with our spouses. Like I remember yesterday in the kitchen, my husband started talking to me about insurance, and we're talking about different things, serious things that we need to have the conversation. And my son kept, daddy, and we're trying to teach him patience and to say excuse me and to wait, and he kept going. And he fully acknowledged my son and said, listen, you will have my full attention after I talk to mommy, but right now this topic and mommy needs my full attention. And again, that's him doing a good job of giving me the attention that I need too. So it's a serious, family kind of life topic that we had to have that conversation and discuss. So I think even with couples, grabbing your wife's hand and saying, I hear you and I'm listening, just how much of a difference that would make.
Mm-hmm. Huge. And I don't think we even think about how much our time is chopped up, or how hard it is to listen sometimes. I mean, just that example of active listening, like that's really impressive, because in our normal day, like we have a million distractions. The TV's on, the dog, the kid, the phone, and it's like, how do you actually show someone you're paying attention to them? And even when you're doing that, not just waiting your turn to talk yourself, which half the time that's what listening looks like.
Right. And I mean, we've had where my husband has told me, he's like, I know you're not hearing me. You're thinking about what you're going to say next. He's like, I can see it in your eyes. Like I see.
Caught.
So, I mean, that's definitely something I struggle with, especially when you have a spouse or somebody in your family that is a good communicator. Like sometimes I feel like I'm a bad arguer or a bad conversationalist. Like I can't I don't know. I'm not always listening. I'm always thinking about what I need to say next. And we need to stop doing that with our children, with our spouses. Stop doing that just in general. Like, you know, you're talking to a friend. Be fully present. It's quite visible when you're not, even when you think you're tricking that person into listening. It's obvious that you're not.
It's not just obvious, but if we're being honest, we're really aware of when someone is listening. We're
Right.
really aware of what eye contact and like mirroring, like when someone is nodding like you're doing right now, like actually acknowledging what you're saying and feeling it. Like we know what that feels like. And we know the 90% of the time when we don't get that,
Right.
and what that feels like too. And it probably triggers all kinds of like reactions in us. And we probably do a million things of like talking louder or being more, whatever, to like try to like get what we're looking for. But like, it's a shame we don't actually have a better formula. We do actually, but we don't practice it for like actually listening to someone so they feel heard, because then they're going to want to like turn around and listen to us. Right.
Right. I mean, and it's like, I recall telling my children, like we tell them like, stop, just because you're getting louder doesn't mean I'm gonna acknowledge you, but it's probably what they see exemplified, for them.
It probably works, to be honest.
They don't answer the first time I say, get your laundry. When I scream it, they sure, it works then. So let me try it with mommy. We have to be conscious of it. And getting back to the fun piece and me saying that I don't feel like I'm that much fun sometimes, one trick or tactic that I've come to realize is I can make sure that what we're doing is something that I find enjoyable. If my son wants to do dinosaurs and I have a really hard time being present playing with dinosaurs, maybe we can turn it into, okay, you get the dinosaur in the position you want. Mommy really likes to draw, and I'll draw the dinosaur. Mm-hmm. And then we can have the dinosaur, tell a joke or whatever it is. Like, but make it something that you will enjoy so that you can have that special connection time with your children.
I think that's an awesome idea. I think there's, like you said before, it's like all or nothing. It doesn't need to be all or nothing. It can be a collaboration, and it can be something that's fun for you too. It's not like having fun at your kid's level means that you have to be bored to tears. You can actually have fun with it too. And there are probably ways to do that.
Right. And I think, and I know even like this week, like I think I fail to remember that, like when you're in the middle of things, you fail to remember that. But a quick, like little, talk to yourself, like, all right, yes, he wants me to do this. I can make this fun. How can I make this fun? And you guys will both benefit from that time together.
That's really cool.
Yeah. You know what else I was thinking? One thing in our house that we do.
No, what else were you thinking? I'm listening.
Thank you. Thank you for that acknowledgement. Is playing music. We have random dance parties like all the time. We turn on YouTube on our Roku or on our phone or whatever, and we all do Watch Me Whip, Watch Me Nay Nay, or Let It Go. It's an instant mood booster and changer.
It is the biggest, smartest parenting move I've ever heard.
Yeah. Do you have dance parties?
We had dance parties. We would have dance parties all the time. Back when there was such a thing as boom boxes. And now I realize there's music everywhere. I mean, you basically have 10 devices between like the bottom of the stairs and the kitchen before you can you can find music anywhere, and any music you want at the touch of, like, it's insane. Yeah. But it used to be there was a CD and you'd wait for the next track, and like that's how you did. But those dance parties with my kids when they were little, the ones we have on tape too, they're just like insane. I mean, just so much fun. Just like, and in the car playing stuff, like I think I admitted to playing something with like a bad lyric and like trying to mute it down at the time the lyric came up. But like the stuff I would sing in the car and like get the kids singing, and just, it was so much fun. Like, it's just, you're right. It's not just a mood lightener, it's a game changer.
Yeah. Yeah. I never actually wrote it, but I remember, because for me with my writing, a lot of times I think of my titles before I actually write the piece. Mm-hmm. And one title I had was The Soundtrack of Our Lives. Like, I feel like I don't know, just music at any time of day, you put on a song and I swear there's 5 smiles in my house. I mean, it's an instant booster. So I think recognizing what that is for you, and maybe it's not music for you, maybe it's something different. Just having an open mind to that stuff will really, I think help you be the more fun one, or at least catch up to everybody else. Right. In your house.
The other thing that music does is it gets you moving too, and it like just getting out of position, like changing your position, changing, what part of the room you're looking at, the light that's like, but not to mention moving your body, moving your hips, like moving your legs, singing, being silly, spinning around, like all these factors are just like huge. And if you don't think your kids are watching that stuff and appreciating that you're willing to like be silly and funny. I mean, at some point they'll tell you my kids told me to stop. Like it was embarrassing them. Yeah. Like I wasn't doing it in public, but like, they're like, you can't do that. Like, but I knew it was a win either way. Like I was, even if they were like admonishing me, that was like, it told me I was on to something good.
Right. So that should be the goal. Everybody aim to get to the point where your kids tell you to stop.
That's awesome.
I think so. I mean, it works in our house. You and I have talked about it so many times. Just being silly and being open and being flexible. Find a way to do that for your children and just life in general for them and for you, and the journey you're going to take together, I think will be that much more pleasant. Totally. Great talking to you, Robert.
Good to talk to you.
Thank you for listening to the I Am the Worst Parent Ever podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss an episode.